What's a terrifying fact about space? Let's talk about Phoenix A. It is the largest black hole ever discovered. Its predecessor, for largest, was Ton 618. That black hole's discovery led to a new definition of black holes, ultramassive. So just how big is Phoenix A? It has the mass of 100 billion solar masses, with a Schwarzschild diameter of 367 billion miles 590.5 billion kilometers. The problem with really big numbers like that is it's hard to have perspective on them. We just can't imagine things that big. But it helps to scale things down and compare sizes to something more earthly, so I ran the numbers. Scaling down our solar system, I started with setting the Sun to 3 feet 9 meters in diameter. The Earth, scaled down the same percentage, would be about the size of a tiny ball bearing. Scaled down by the same percentage, Phoenix A would have a diameter of approximately 240 miles 386 kilometers. That is roughly the distance between Boston, MA and Philadelphia, PA. The sheer distance between things, it's scary and somewhat depressing. Even if we could travel at the speed of light, it would take for years just to get to the closest star. If we're ever going to visit other star systems, we need to figure out some kind of wormhole tech or space-bending tech, because otherwise, realistically, nobody's going to be going anywhere outside of our own solar system. It never ends, or maybe it does. And then what? When you get to the end, the gorilla starts throwing barrels at you. Recursive geometry. Space probably isn't ballistically infinite. There's not an endless amount of new space to traverse, edit, at any one discrete moment in time. Space is expanding. Of course, it just loops back on itself in one configuration or another. This means there's no boundary of the sort you're thinking. There's no the other side of that line, spatial geometry. However, probably has infinite capacity for expansion. The shape we're on, whatever shape space is expanding. Now, if you really want to fuck your head up, understand it's not expanding into anything. There's no meta void into which it expands. There's no real way to intuitively wrap your head around that because our brains evolved to intuit localized geometry in which an object must have a unit of dimension in which to expand, like a cubic foot. But for the universe itself, there's no higher dimension we're expanding into beyond those present within the universe's geometry. How can a thing expand without a void to expand into? Makes no sense. But then, reality was never burdened with the responsibility of making sense to us either. It was my understanding there would be no math, no sound. Here's the fun fact. If we could hear the sun, at its distance of 90 million miles away, Earth would hear the roar of a train about 10 feet from you at all times everywhere. Some fun consequences of this would be how people would have evolved. Most notably, our name for the Earth and all words in all languages through all history would be what? That we, as a planet, are literally flying through space. I don't just mean around the sun, because our solar system is flying through space as well. Along with our galaxy too, where Earth was 1 minute ago is a point in space that we will never return to. That's a good one. I'm still waiting for a time travel movie that takes into account they'd have to use spaceflight to either reach the point in space where Earth was in the past or will be in the future to make it work. Like in Back to the Future, with Earth traveling 18.5 miles per second, Doc's first 1-minute test would have sent his dog and the car 1,110 miles away, likely reappearing either within the Earth itself or in space. Dinosaurs lived on the other side of the galaxy. They also lived on this side of the galaxy. Dinosaurs were around for a really long time. I was curious and looked it up, and this checks out. It takes the sun 240 million years to complete an orbit around the galaxy, and dinosaurs first appeared out 245 million years ago. So we have completed a little over one lap around the galaxy since dinosaurs first showed up. Here's one closer to home. The Kessler effect is the theory that a single destructive event in low Earth orbit could create a cascade where satellites break up into tiny fragments, taking out other satellites, breaking up into smaller fragments, and so on, until the Earth is completely surrounded by a massive cloud of tiny flying death shrapnel, which would make leaving this planet almost impossible. If you look up how much space debris there is already up there and how many satellites currently orbit, plus the continued growth of the commercial space industry, I think about it a lot. I once had a job where I would track particular satellites. The system I used tracked all satellites as well as larger space debris. Even 20 years ago, there was an impressive, actually kind of distressing amount of space junk up there. Space is really big and there's lots of room up there. But even tiny flecks of paint can cause real damage and cause more space junk. One of our FOF pastimes while deployed was to come up with inventive ways to remove the debris. My idea was a satellite with a long magnetic tail that would attract space junk. My theory as a non-engineer was that once it collected enough junk it would become too heavy and fall back to Earth, with most of the stuff burning up in the atmosphere. My buddy pointed out that if we were depending on loss of inertia as a return method, then there would be no control over where the unburned parts would land. That, obviously, is bad. If you gathered together all the matter in the universe we can observe right now and squished it together until it had the density of water 1 cm, it would fit into a cube about 1 light-year on each side. There are several disturbing things about this. A single light-year is almost unimaginably huge. A cubic light-year is a ridiculous volume of space. The observable universe is 33 orders of magnitude larger than that. It is almost entirely empty. A couple years ago I saw a photo that had been taken from the surface of an asteroid or comet. It was dark and looked like there had been some sort of artificial light illuminated to take the photo. I thought to myself that that may be what hell is like. No light, no sound, no stimuli of any kind. You're not really able to move of your own volition because with nothing to push against, you just aimlessly float. And that's eternity. Nothingness for eons and ages, while your consciousness ticks along. The largest black hole we have discovered has a diameter of 490.00 kilometers. Earth's diameter is roughly 13.00 kilometers. How many football fields is that? All of them. And more. The fact that Voyager 2 space probe after over 40 years has not even hit a pebble. I find the Voyager probes to be fascinating, especially because last I knew, Voyager 2 is still functioning and sending back a limited amount of data. But even the whole mission, suddenly bringing all these worlds into sharp focus that had never been seen up close before. All the questions answered and places explored. And there it is, still floating along and talking to us. For now. I truly don't believe most of us are capable of comprehending the vastness of space and the distance between things. Douglas Adams engages in this concept when he put the in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The machine was originally created by its inventor Trin Tragula as a way to get back at his wife. She was always telling him to get a sense of proportion, so he showed her the vortex. Tragula was horrified to learn he had destroyed her mind, even as he proved his point that if life was going to live in such a vast universe, one thing it could not afford to have was a sense of perspective. There are voids in the universe that are so big that if you were teleported to the center with a spacesuit on, you would just see pitch darkness in all directions. EDIT, Hoa. This blew up quickly. Thank you for the silver. Edit. And the wholesome, and the helpful. The farthest galaxy we can detect was 13.4 billion light-years away when it emitted the light we see today. That light, not the galaxy. The light itself is 3 times as old as the Earth. Damn, that means the Earth doesn't exist for the farthest galaxy yet. That's crazy. Its size and age alone is disturbing. I have had an ongoing existential crisis since I was a child when I realized just how small and vulnerable we are. Space is big, really big. You just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is. I mean, you may think it's a long way down the road to the chemists, but that's just peanuts to space. Douglas Adams. Time-lapse of the future sends me into an existential crisis every time. That's one of my favorite YouTube videos, and it actually helped me gain more self-confidence in my life, especially the last 4 minutes or so of the video. Just the idea that everything will be gone and there won't even be a chance of anyone remembering anything stupid I've done. So why would I be afraid of talking to a woman or applying for a job I'm not totally qualified for? We still don't know exactly how it came into existence. Rogue planets. Such objects have been ejected from the planetary system in which they were formed or have never been gravitationally bound to any star or brown dwarf. If a rogue planet invade our solar system, things could go very wrong. In about 150 billion years, intergalactic transportation and communication beyond our local supercluster will be impossible. In about 2 trillion years, galaxies outside of our local supercluster are no longer detectable due to redshift. Assuming the universe keeps expanding, then the universe's final fate depends on whether or not protons decay. It has been observed that most astronauts can hear sound in the vacuum of space, all except those who are Hispanic. Scientists speculate that due to some genetic defect based on ethnicity, Hispanic astronauts simply aren't able to hear in space. But you know what they say, in space, no one can hear you scream. The images you see are galaxies not as they are but as they were based on how many light years away they are. This is fine for anything within the thousands, but if we are talking millions or billions of light years away, then there is a good chance that none of those stars you see even technically exist right now. On the bright side though, if we can figure out how to move faster than light, then we could see our own planet with a good enough telescope as it was in the past. We could observe any outside historical event or even dinosaurs. I think it's pretty scary that nobody alien species has encountered us yet. There are a few theories about why this is, but the scariest one is this. It is possible there is an alien race that is obsessed with destroying intelligent worlds. Marvel stands, think Galactus. Once an intelligent world starts kicking up enough dust, sending radio messages into space, or exploring new galaxies, the alien race will notice them and destroy them. It's possible that we're so unadvanced that we don't even show up on the map for a world-eating race of aliens. You don't fuck with it, or you might end up in a pretty fucked up situation. Asterisk source, watched Event Horizon alone when I was 11, and probably shouldn't have. The number of solar flares that have missed Earth by a thread are astoundingly disturbing. There was one solar storm back in 2014 that missed Earth by 9 days. 9 flipping days. If it had hit, we would have lost all forms of electricity and not been able to recover for years, and that would have been the least of our worries. Edit, my bad, it was actually 2012. Guess the Mayans were almost right. To me, just the fact that everything up there is doing its own thing right this very second. For example, take an exoplanet hundreds of light years from Earth. Right now on that exoplanet, there is a breeze blowing, a volcano erupting, an ocean swirling. It's doing its thing just as Earth does its thing. And it does it all completely indifferent to us being here. At 600 km above planet Earth, the temperature fluctuates between plus 258 and minus 148 degrees Fahrenheit. There is nothing to carry sound, no air pressure, no oxygen. Life in space is impossible. Opening title card in the movie Gravity. How easy it would be to become completely and totally isolated out there. In space, technology is the only thing keeping us alive. The only reason we don't freeze, suffocate, or starve. When something like a car breaks down, we can call a tow truck and get it repaired. In space, there's no such thing. Think about the Apollo 13 and everything that went wrong there. Imagine the day when humans advanced to traveling deeper into space, with noteworthy landmarks being so far apart. Navigating without a computer would be almost impossible, even if you still had communication with Earth. Imagine not having communication, completely alone in the blackness of space. Or even worse, your engines die and you're just forced to sit hoping and praying that somewhere in the vast universe someone comes across you. That's scarier than any movie monster. That we are looking at the past when we are looking at outer space, because light only travels so fast. That galaxy you're looking at that's a billion light years away might not be there anymore. Also, there's this stuff called strange matter and it's inside neutron stars. People theorized that if strange matter breaks out of the neutron star, it can turn everything it comes to contact with into more strange matter. And by the fact, scientists still have no clue what exactly is dark matter and dark energy. I just learned about something called angular diameter turnaround, thanks XKCD. Basically, things that are far away look smaller. But things that are really far away look bigger, because when their light was emitted, the universe was small and they were close to us. XKCD number 2622. I just can't make my mind understand that. The great attractor, more frustrating not knowing that disturbing. Fermi paradox. So alone, singularities undermine mathematics and logic. Heat death or big rip, eventually we die. Time. So much time, we are a flash in endless darkness. The sheer size of even the observable universe, we are nothing. There is no absolute position or time. Where are we? The governing force seems to be entropy. Oh yes, you boil when exposed to the vacuum. It's unfathomably infinite. We can only see a mere slice of it, while light years away some other species can only see a piece, while not even able to even see our galaxy. If you were to bring a cat to space, it can't land. You are probably saying, of course it can't land, there is no gravity. But what I mean is far more cruel. Let me explain. There have been scientific studies performed that show that cats dropped from a certain height can't get their paws facing down because it's too high, and they lose track of where their ground is. They have taken this a step further and brought cats to the ISS. They dropped them, and apart from the obvious no gravity, they found something else also. The cats didn't just float around with their paws facing towards the earth or down, if you will. Instead, the cats just continuously looked around, looking for the bottom, while at the same time shifting their body to land where they thought down was, which also continuously changed. There is a video about that here.